The zero waste movement surged onto the internet in the mid-2010s, introducing a fresh approach to saving the planet. Blogs, YouTube videos, social feeds flourished with environmental conservation and awareness. But now, more than a decade later, it's time to ask, did the zero waste movement lie to us? Hello everybody, I'm Lal and welcome back to Sustainable Jungle, where we share sustainability tips, tricks, hacks, products, brands, and stories to better our planet. And today we're putting the practice of zero waste under the microscope. What did this movement get right? What did it get wrong? And what is the alternative today? Let's start with the illusion of zero waste. The ethos of zero waste, i.e. living a waste-free life, as in no waste or almost no waste. Zero waste became synonymous with the visual representation of a simple mason jar filled with a bit of trash, thanks to Lawrence Singer, who was one of the first, if not the first mover. And there were other influencers like Jonses, Rob Greenfield, Catherine Kellogg, who promoted the same message, albeit with their own take. And the messaging was that you could generate minimal waste as long as you had the right tools and habits in place, which in itself is not wrong. It's totally doable. It's laudable, and something we've promoted and still promote to this day, just with a bit more awareness around what the data says. But the issue with that representation is it's not the whole picture, like not at all. And just to be clear, I am not saying that these influencers were guilty of saying otherwise, because they didn't, okay? But the idea that what ended up in your mason jar at the end of your waste saving year was the sum total of the waste you generated is just false. And obviously most of us never even got close to a mason jar size of trash, me included. But the point is this, whatever waste you ended up with, regardless of your eco efforts or how full your jar was, it only represented a tiny fraction of the total waste you actually generated. This laser focus on the end-of-life waste ignored the significant upstream waste generated from extraction, production, transportation of whatever it was you were consuming. From bamboo cutlery, to those hydro flasks, to the reusable mugs, to the bento box you bought for takeaways. And the problem with this is that this hidden waste is substantial and often more environmentally damaging than the visible waste we discard. Which is a nice segue into the next issue, the carbon footprint of zero waste products. To live a zero waste life, you have to have the right tools, which necessitates, among other things, replacing disposable items with reusable alternatives, like the examples I mentioned. There are many other products that make up the Swiss Army knife of a battle-ready zero waster. And the market responded to this need with the rise in production of products like reusable straws, reusable shopping bags, and more reusable mugs than coffee beans. And while the aim of these types of products was to minimize waste, the reality is that manufacturing them more often than not resulted in higher carbon emissions than their single-use counterparts, like way higher. For instance, a reusable cotton tote bag would need to be used 7,100 times to offset its environmental impact compared to a single plastic bag used just once. Similarly, producing and transporting metal straws and bamboo cutlery requires significant resources and energy. And studies have shown that bamboo straws and beeswax wraps, for example, never reach an environmental break-even point because the high energy and water consumption required for their frequent manual washing actually outweighs the benefits of avoiding their single-use counterparts. Having said that, it is worth noting that glass and steel straws would require 23 to 39 and 37 to 63 uses respectively to break even. So that's good. Look, I've recently done a deep dive on the topic of the plastic-free movement, which goes into a little bit more detail on the footprint of these reusables versus their plastic counterparts. I'll link to it below, but to summarize the point here, it's these environmental costs that are frequently overlooked by the zero waste narrative, which really highlights the nuance of sustainability, because otherwise it would just be too easy. No, we need to consider the full life cycle of products, every single product. It's simple, right? The next issue with living a zero waste lifestyle felt a little bit like, I don't know, trying to keep up with the Jonses. Not everyone had the ability or access. From high-priced sustainable goods to proximity to bulk stores to having enough spare time to DIY your toothpaste or upcycle your holy jeans. It became somewhat of an exclusionary movement that just wasn't accessible to everyone. In other words, the movement often overlooked, the practical challenges faced by individuals who just didn't have the luxury of time or money to fully embrace the lifestyle. And in many cases, this lifestyle was more accessible to individuals with socioeconomic advantages, which highlighted a form of privilege that could be seen as predominantly benefiting those in more affluent and often predominantly white communities. And this is when the eco-guilt kicked in, because if you couldn't keep up with the demands of going all in, that is any deviation from the strictest zero waste principles, cue trash jar, then you were on the out. Say goodbye to the Jonses, which obviously created a toxic environment. Individuals felt shamed rather than encouraged to make sustainable changes at their own pace, sustainable pace. Instead of fostering inclusivity and gradual improvement, the movement often imposed unrealistic and exclusive standards, alienating those who just couldn't commit to some idealized version of living zero waste. Which is kind of ironic, given that those purists may have ended up causing more damage than good when you actually consider the life cycle analysis of some of those zero waste swaps. Okay, look, I know that is a lot of hating on zero waste. So let's balance the scales here, because it is far from black and white, and the zero waste movement has actually done a lot of good, just in case you thought I was a complete detractor. False. Let's first talk about raising awareness about our environmental footprint, because the zero waste movement was a huge catalyst, just like the plastic-free movement, in making us acutely conscious of the absurdity of single-use plastics and the pervasive culture of just disposability. Yes, the iconic mason jar of trash was unachievable for most of us. It did actually serve as a symbol, a powerful visual tool that highlighted the vast amounts of waste that we actually generate. People had to critically think about their consumption habits. Did you find yourself wondering how many mason jars you'd need for all the waste you generated? I did, and I didn't feel very good about it. This just spotlighted our need for a greater uptake of sustainable practices. By showcasing the impact of individual actions, the movement spurred conversations and motivated many to adopt more mindful approaches to their daily lives. Similarly, the movement encouraged us to reevaluate our consumption patterns and consider the life cycle of the products that we actually use. Our buying decisions became more intentional, such as opting for secondhand or products with minimal packaging, or supporting local businesses. And it was this shift in mindset that represented a significant step towards a more sustainable lifestyle. By fostering a culture of mindful consumption, the movement played a crucial role in promoting long-term environmental stewardship and reducing our collective ecological footprint, which in turn put more pressure on companies and corporations to be more responsible, and gave us, to an extent, a more skeptical lens with which to approach these green claims and greenwashing. Us consumers were more empowered than ever before to make informed decisions. We were armed with legitimate questions, scrutinizing sustainability practices and commitments of various brands. And this, of course, resulted in more individual support for businesses that genuinely prioritized environmental stewardship over those that only pretended to do so for marketing benefits. And it was through this critical evaluation that the zero waste movement fostered a culture of accountability encouraging companies to adopt more transparent and genuinely sustainable practices to earn consumer trust and loyalty. And on the flip side of the guilt trip, it did actually cultivate a very strong sense of community among individuals dedicated to minimizing their environmental impact. Online forums, local meetups, DIY, and social media groups became invaluable for exchanging tips and resources and support and promoting self-sufficiency. This camaraderie was vital in maintaining the movement's momentum and fostering a collective effort towards sustainability, even if it wasn't the perfect family picture. And the movement also played a crucial role in influencing policy changes. So many states in the US and around the world have dedicated zero waste programs and initiatives to reduce waste. From Los Angeles zero waste goals targeting 90% waste diversion by 2025, to New York City's zero waste to landfills by 2030, to Austin's recovery project by 2040. Without the awareness and the conversation and the public demand for an environmental roadmap, all thanks to zero waste, the zero waste movement, we'd be so much further down the road than we are today. So, did the zero waste movement lie to us? It's complicated, right? I mean, the movement, it certainly had its flaws and its shortcomings. I mean, it oversimplified the complex issue of waste management, and it promoted products that weren't as eco-friendly as the data shows. And it also struggled with inclusivity and occasionally fostered a guilt-driven culture. However, despite these issues, the zero waste movement has, I think, on balance, had a hugely positive impact. It succeeded in making us more aware of our environmental footprint and the urgent need, like seriously urgent need, to reduce our waste. It challenged the status quo of our consumption habits. It highlighted the importance of supporting sustainable businesses. But most importantly, it did lay the groundwork for future environmental movements by fostering a culture of mindfulness and responsibility. So while the zero waste movement might not have been the perfect solution, and while most of us ticked it off as an extended trend and moved on, it actually was a crucial stepping stone in our less than perfect journey towards a more sustainable future. I think we're definitely better for it. And look, while I don't practice it to the same extent that I used to, because I have more knowledge and awareness, and because sustainable living actually needs to be sustainable, it has taught me valuable lessons about the importance of transparency, accessibility, and realistic environmentalism. I would love to know what your thoughts on the zero waste movement are. What did it get right? What did it get wrong? And what zero waste practices do you still maintain today? Please let me know in the comments below. I'll, of course, add links to all the resources and data I mentioned. And thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, notification, all the buttons, if sustainable living is your thing. I'm Lyle from SJ, much love, and see you in the next one.